As we come to the end of the year, today on Practical Church Planting, we are going to review our 2021 church predictions. What did we get right? What did we get wrong? And what are we thinking about as we head into the next year? Here we go.
Thanks for joining us again today on Practical Church Planting. Today we're going to be giving you our reflections on our 2021 church predictions.
One of our largest download episodes, actually ever, surprisingly,
Yeah.
was the last episode of 2020, which are 2021 church predictions. Today, we're going to tell you how we did.
Yeah.
As we get into it, if you're listening to this in real time, this is our last episode of the year. We take the last 2 weeks off because people don't listen to podcasts, and we want to take some time off.
Yep.
So, that being said, Christmas is upon us. We got
Yes.
a special Christmas gift for all you listeners.
Oh, man.
From now through the rest of the year, December 31st, 2021,
Yep.
our our practical church planting course, Growing Your Launch Team course, is going to be half off.
Yes.
So instead of $149, it's going to be $75 for the rest of the year. You can go to practicalplanting.com to get more information about the course. Again, it's our Growing Your Launch Team course. We give you practical, step-by-step, not just theoretical, raise money, but build a team, but actually how to do it.
Yeah.
And even with all the COVID stuff, we would still say the same thing.
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
Life's
Doesn't
different,
change.
but people still need to gather. They still need Jesus. And so practicalplanting.com, you can check out our Growing Your Launch Team course, or I think specifically practicalplanting.com/course
Yep.
or launch. I
Slash
don't know.
launch.
Practicalplanting.com/launch.
Yep.
And it's typically $149, and we're still selling them. People are still buying it, and people are still using it. But for the rest of the year, $75, 50% off. Go and get your course.
Deal of a lifetime.
Or if you got a church planter friend that needs it, gift it to them.
It's a Christmas present.
Or
There
tell
you go.
them.
Yeah.
All right. Here are our reflections on how correct or not correct we were.
Yep.
As we're looking at this, it's kind of hard to know because we don't have the data. We haven't run like a big survey or whatever. So these are just our experiences and what we have observed and hear talking to others. And then when we are back on our first episode of January, a little teaser for you, we're going to give you our 2022 church predictions since this was way more popular than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Even on our YouTube channel, it's like one of the most watched videos.
Yeah.
So,
So
whatever.
Stay tuned.
Here they go. So we'll go through them in order and share with you how they went, what we thought, all that good stuff.
See if you agree or disagree.
Here was the first one. I think this one is probably the most accurate, maybe. We said many churches will almost get back to pre-COVID numbers, but most of the numbers will be from new people and not from people returning. Now, I guess caveat, if you had told us in January COVID would still be as prevalent as it is, this was the assumption that it would not be.
Yes. That is true.
But it is what it is. So
Yep.
obviously that no one can predict that. So a lot of us were experiencing people left, especially at the beginning of this year, people hadn't come back, people that were nervous. In our situation, we had people who had not come back yet, and we've had some people come back that hadn't come back yet in January.
Yep.
But for the vast majority of them who were not back in January, they were not coming back, or they were super inconsistent and they were on their way out and they have since left.
Yep,
And I think it's been an experience for a lot of people. And so I actually think this one's pretty accurate. I guess the new part of this too is I think determinative on where you live. So if you're in a more open state or county, or we're in Raleigh, so a lot of places in North Carolina are open, but Raleigh and Wake County is not. It's still
Right.
masks, so people still kind of think about it a lot. Or in other places, I guess if you're not thinking about it, it doesn't affect you as much.
Yep.
I don't know. This is actually true for us. What's interesting, and we'll talk about this in the other ones, while we are not quite at our pre-COVID Sunday attendance numbers, we have more people who call New City Church home. And we know that because we have more people giving and more people in groups than we ever had before.
Yep.
But they're just, as we'll talk about in the other ones, their frequency of Sunday attendance has gone down. And we've said in this episodes, I don't think it's primarily because people just care less. I think just working from home, more flexible work schedules and lifestyles, people are just gone more.
Yep.
So they come to church less on Sunday, but yet our group attendance is higher because people are in town during the week, and many of them still care. So many churches will almost get back to pre-COVID numbers. I mean, this is generally speaking. Some are exceeding that, some are not, and maybe close their doors. So many is maybe as a general. It's not a.
Yeah.
We didn't say how many.
Yeah.
But to me, this actually seems to be true, even in a place like Raleigh, where pretty much I think, especially a place like us, I don't think there's a single church. Maybe if you're like a brand new church plant, House
Sure.
Chance, where you had like 20 people, so that's gotten bigger. I don't think there's a single church that I know of. Of course, I don't know all of them.
Yeah.
That has more people on their Sunday attendance average right now than pre-COVID. And so I guess where we live, that actually I think turned out pretty accurately. I don't know if it is for you guys, but I think a lot of you probably would say the same thing.
Yeah, I think especially the portion about most of the numbers being from new people and not returning people. You know, in the grand scheme of things, I don't know if most churches are experiencing or if they've hit their numbers or not. Like we haven't quite, but we're like right on the cusp of it. So it's not at this point. Obviously, it's not like a huge difference from where it was pre-COVID, but it was at one point. You know, and we're kind of building back up to it. But the majority of the people, or I shouldn't say the majority, a large number of the people that have come since kind of we reopened and since COVID became a thing it's been more so new people than just people returning. And I think that's something I don't think we're unique in that. I think that when people disengage, it was, in a lot of cases, it was hard to re-engage in the same way that they did pre-COVID for all the reasons you mentioned before. Whether it's legitimate or not, there's just a lot of reasons to disengage, and it was hard for people to re-engage in the same way. Harder for people to re-engage than it was for new people to, whether it's because of moving to a new city or tired of being alone, you know, or tired of being more isolated, or whatever the reason. I don't know the full reason, but we've definitely seen more new people than people returning, and I don't think that's unique to us.
Yeah. So again, think back to where you were in January. In waiting, you know, you might have grown a little bit since then, but it's probably not because people who hadn't come had come back. Although maybe some of them have. It's probably been new people.
Yep.
Which seems to be pretty accurate. So
I think so.
Good job, us.
1 for 1.
1 for 1. 1 for 1. Number 2, churches will see more engagement in their small groups than their Sunday gatherings. Again, we can't measure this, but this also seems to be, I think, even more accurate than what we were thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess what I was thinking is like engagement might be. I don't know that I thought. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Put it this way. For a while we actually had more people in groups than coming on a Sunday. I think that's going to be going away, you know, because we've had some more people.
Yeah.
But in terms of like our people who are part of a group, because we track attendance, and just from talking to people, like our group attendance, it seems that people go to their group more than they go to church on Sundays.
Yes.
Again, because they're out of town. Maybe live stream is part of it. I don't think that's the primary reason, but I think that happens maybe sometimes for some people. This has been true for us. This has been true with some of the Acts 29 people I've talked to. We have this. We use the Facebook Workplace to communicate whatever. And so somebody recently, you know, one of the pastors in Acts 29 posted in our little thing. He was like, "Is anyone else?" They're experiencing, you know, a dip in Sunday attendance, more people in groups, and increased giving. He's like, who else has experienced that? And there's a bunch of us that are like, that's us.
Yep.
Our attendance is not pre-COVID, but we've got more people in groups, and our giving is stronger. And this is what we've seen. I think this is true too.
Yep. It's when we say they're more engaged in small groups than on Sunday. I think I don't know if we did in that episode, but kind of got to figure out what we mean by engaged, because at this point we have more people on a Sunday than we do in groups.
Yes.
At one point that wasn't the case, but now it's like numbers wise that's not the case, but consistency and engagement wise, I think that is the case. Yep. I mean, I can just speak to our personal group alone, which obviously doesn't prove anything, but just in our experience, there's a lot of weeks where we'll have someone miss, whether for whatever reason, on Sunday. But since we've kind of restarted groups and things over these past few months, it's been very rare, other than one time when a family had a COVID scare, and one time like couldn't get out of work in time. Like it's been very rare we haven't had everyone in group.
That's interesting too, because your group meets on Sunday nights. Right?
No.
Oh, it doesn't. Okay.
That was the old group.
Oh, your old group. Okay, I can't remember.
But it was similar to that group too. It was just.
I was just gonna say, because we have some groups that meet on Sunday night. I wonder if their Sunday night attendance is more than their Sunday morning attendance.
Oh, that would be interesting. We can find out.
Yeah.
But it seems as if, and I don't know. I'm sure there's a bunch of different reasons. Obviously, in a group, people notice a lot more if you're not there. There's more accountability if you're not there, and things like that. So I'm sure that all plays into it.
Yep.
And it's in the evening, so if you have kids, sometimes it's a little easier to get something in the evening, in the morning. Whatever the reason, it's definitely in my experience, in our little group's experience, I've definitely seen a lot more engagement in group than on Sundays, and there's probably a lot of different reasons for that. Yep. But this has definitely been true for us.
True for my group too. I mean, my group is pretty good on Sunday attendance for the most part, but they're even better. We meet on Tuesday nights, and there's a lot. It's even better.
Yeah.
Again, it's during the week, a lot of different reasons. So, engagement in terms of maybe not just showing up, but coming, and this is why group structure is important. We don't have an answer to this, but we're trying to, we talked at a last elder meeting, trying to think through what does it look like to maybe fund and put more resources and time and energy into groups.
Yeah.
Since that very clearly seems to be where a lot of the, emphasis is. That's where people are showing up.
And it's interesting because like when I don't get asked this much, but the very rare occasion someone asks about like the size of our church, if I'm talking to somebody that doesn't go here, something like that. And especially when we're talking about COVID, it's like, pre-COVID to now, we technically still haven't hit our pre-COVID numbers. Ours is a little weird experience because our pre-COVID was like 2 weeks that we moved into this new building. So those would be higher Sundays than normal anyways because there's a new building and stuff. But technically we haven't gotten back. Our attendance is growing, but it's not necessarily, to that point. Yeah. But I would definitely say people are a lot more engaged now than they were before. And so we're kind of rethinking what does it look like to, instead of being focused on attendance, which we weren't necessarily ever focused on only attendance, but are there things that are more important to track than attendance? And so we're looking at things like groups because we can see that people are more engaged and that the church is becoming healthier. And there's a lot of things that are pointing to that, but Sunday attendance isn't necessarily the one thing. It's
interesting. Pre-COVID, if somebody came to your church once a month, maybe some of them that came twice a month, they probably weren't that engaged in terms of maybe they might not serve very often or be in groups. But now you can come to, we have plenty of people who come once or twice a month who go to their group almost every week.
Yeah.
And do continue to give. And so it's kind of, not that you would ever guilt or shame people anyway, but it's like people, before if they came once a month, before COVID, I would say, and people would say that this is their church, but I was like, you're not really engaged. But now we legitimately have people who will come once or twice a month. Probably more twice a month than the people that come once. But still, that go to the group almost every week. Because I'm not going to name names, but I'm thinking of them in my mind. And then I talk to their group leader, and they're like, they're here every week. But they're only here like once or twice a month.
And if you think about it, this shouldn't be like a either or kind of thing, but if gun to my head, if I had to choose, like, would I rather someone be in their group or come on Sunday morning? I think I'd rather them be in their group because they're you're kind of forced to engage in a group where Sunday morning you can show up and leave and not engage at all, but a group you kind of have to. So like seeing more people engage in their groups, I think is a really good sign of health.
Yeah. So the only thing we've done financially is we help pay for childcare for parents,
which hardly anyone
not
takes advantage.
Less people than you would think.
Use.
Yes. And so we're just trying to think what that would look like. And so even for me, last week I started a men's Bible study near the church. I'm not like a super early morning person, but I did 7. I emailed like 25 guys in our church just to see who would be interested. And a lot of them said they're interested. A lot of them couldn't make it, but about half of them said they were interested and they actually wanted to come. Which people say that all the time, but I didn't care. So it's 7 a.m. right across the street. There's a Panera right across from us. 5 people showed up, and I was clear. I was like, this is not an obligation. This is not nothing you have to do. I'm going to be here. We had a good time. So I was like, I'll be here every week since I'm going to be at church anyway. And it was different. Our community groups are sermon based. This one was just, we read a passage of scripture and I had some questions and we just talked about it. And it was just relaxing and it was really good. And so I would just maybe encourage you to think through, Sunday still matters. I still think it's vitally important. Like, for example,
I agree.
This past week, I preached through the genealogy of Jesus in Matthew chapter 1. And I'm one of those things that's like, people talk about like the sermon's overrated, whatever. I'm like, people need to be taught the scriptures because the average person is not going to study the genealogy of Jesus, and it's not going to make sense to them. And it's not because they're dumb. It's just like, let me give you an example. After service, a woman came up to me, and she was not in a way of like, you're so smart, but she was genuinely perplexed. She said, Dylan, where do you find this stuff? Like, where do you learn this stuff?
Yeah.
And it wasn't like you're so smart. It was like, I don't know. If I wanted to study the genealogy of Jesus, I don't know where I would go to find any of the things that you just talked about.
Sure, yeah.
And we forget, it's like curse of knowledge, that it's like, oh, I just read a few commentaries. But like, we also know the commentaries to get. We know the things on Google that are more legit than others. Like the average person has no idea. And there's a lot of people that do like crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Like, for example, someone else talked to me because, there's numbers involved with genealogies and 7s and 14s, whatever. And a different person was like, it almost sounded like numerology.
Sure.
And so we were talking about how, well, a lot of that weird numerology stuff people do, it's like, where did you get that from? Like all this stuff is like well attested, everybody knows. And anyway, like people don't know. And so it is vitally important for them to have places where it's taught. But I'm not as discouraged by our numbers as I was before. I think I said this last episode and we talked about online engagement, which highly recommend you go back and listen to if you haven't yet. I think this was the case for really large churches where more people watched online or weren't as in person because their production value was good. I think for smaller churches that's going. Like you're not going to, maybe not, it's not going to, at least not right now. It's not like a sporting event where you have more people who watch it on TV than go.
Sure.
But it's getting more like that. I mean, we have more people that come on Sunday than watch online for sure. But like, it doesn't bother me as much, particularly if they're in a community group. So maybe they're not on Sunday and they should be, but they're still living in community. It's not just an intellectual thing. And so, and our community group leader guides are based off the sermon. So they're still, the leaders are at least watching or there, so they can at least answer questions. So churches will see more engagement in their small groups than Sunday gatherings. That's been very true for us. Probably been true for you to some degree. And so thinking through what does that look like, instead of being really discouraged about it, and still wanting to do Sundays as good as you can. But what does it look like to not make people do a bunch of stuff during the week, but think through how can I engage people maybe once during the week better than I am right now.
Yeah, I think this is something we're probably going to do an episode on soon, folks. Once we kind of figure out what we're doing, once we kind of figure out our game plan, we'll share it because I think it's something that could really be helpful.
Yep. So churches will see more engagement in their small groups than their Sunday gatherings or whatever you call your groups. I think that's true for a lot of people.
I agree.
2 for 2. Look at that. Better than I thought.
Yeah, me too.
Number 3, churches that invest in their live stream will see the most physical growth. Bro,
I don't
know, but I think we're 3 for 3.
It's not.
This is hard because we don't know,
and also this one's not as hot of a take. This
is not hot. But and obviously we don't know.
Yeah.
But people watch this stuff, and this has always been true, which is why pre-COVID we weren't big. We didn't live stream. It's not that we were against it. We just didn't put the money into it because it's not. And live streaming is not neutral. If you listen to this podcast, this is not new. If it looks bad or if it sounds bad, people are going to assume it's going to be bad in person, like a new person. Yeah. And a lot of people, even if they don't watch your live stream, again, going back to last episode, they're going to look you up online. They might not watch a whole sermon, but they'll probably click through it. I'm in ministry, right? But if I wasn't, I would not go to a church. I would look at your social media and I would look at your sermon. Like I just would. Not just to see if the preacher is good, but just to see what's it like in there.
Yeah.
And so, again, just like last episode, we think you need to spend time and money figuring out online engagement and live stream. Now, I don't know how much we spent, a couple grand total.
Probably, about that. Yeah.
I know not every church can do a couple grand, but you should do something. Yep. And caveat, convictionally, if you're against live stream, that's fine. I totally get it. But if you are not against it and you're open to it, you need to be doing something to figure out it. And maybe your first step is just recording your sermons with the camera.
Right.
But I think this is true. Again, it's hard to know for sure because what people mean by it, but so many people who come to New City say that they watched our live stream before they came. Now that could just mean they watched a sermon or watched this, but I've heard it enough that I think some of them literally on a Sunday morning watched it before they came in here.
Yeah.
And if it was terrible, it's not the best thing ever, but it's not terrible. And if it was terrible, I think a lot less of those people would have came.
I think I would, if going back or with hindsight now, I would adjust this prediction to say churches that invest in their video production, whatever you want to call it, video presence, will see the most physical growth. Because now kind of looking back on it, obviously I still think it's important. We still live stream. We haven't walked away from it by any means, and we don't plan to. But like if I saw a new church coming up, and I think I would tell them it's more important for you to figure out how to record and post it Sunday afternoon than to desperately try and live stream when it's probably not going to be great in the beginning. Like I think that's going to have a lot more of an impact than trying to make sure that you're live streaming. Now, if you have the ability to do both, which we do, that's ideal. But I think that's going to have the biggest impact. Without going into details of what it was. Just yesterday, I was looking at a church that's far away from us and a big I don't even understand it, but multi-site mega church that I'd never heard of before. And someone I know had gone off and is working at this church. And so I was looking at them, and this is a church that has far more resources than probably all of us that are listening combined. And I couldn't figure out, they weren't, maybe they were live streaming, they take it down. I didn't really care, but their videos weren't posted. There was a link to it, but none of them were up to date. And there's a lot of website things that weren't up to date. And I was looking at this and I was like, clearly this is from their online presence, from the way they make it look, a church that has infinite funds is the way it's kind of portrayed. But if I was new in this area, which I'm not in this area, it's the other side of the country, but if I was new in this area, I wouldn't go because I have no idea what even I don't even know what anything is like. There's no video of anything. And so I think as smaller churches, it's most important to figure out how to record a sermon and put it up. And then once you can master that, move into live stream and kind of keep progressing from there. But I think that the churches that didn't do that are going to be struggling more than the churches that do.
It's so maybe this is 2.5. We got this half right.
Yeah.
Because I think that's true. And we talked about last episode, again, you're not going to necessarily get the same results, but how we were we started taking YouTube seriously in May. We've been doing videos, but whatever. We had 214, and then it's gone up since then, but when we recorded, it was 390. So it was 170 subscribers in 7 months or something, which for us is significant. Again, it's not because hundreds of new people were coming. There were other things that we were doing. So I would say go back and listen to it. And I think it's also one of those things too, where it's easy to get into it now. And the longer you wait, it's like a lot of people that do, like people that sell things or have online presence, they talk about the importance of like an email newsletter and how all these people 5-10 years ago were all on social media and how they regret not working on their newsletter more because that's where all the stuff is.
Yeah.
And that's where all the engagement is now because, Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff, whatever, throttle stuff.
Yep.
I think this is too. It's like, it's a very easy thing and you got to figure out anyway. So you might as well start now when you're smaller and get better as you learn. So you don't have to have live stream week 1, but you should buy a camera, start recording your sermons, uploading your sermons, do like last week we talked about different weekly videos you can do to get better, to train yourself, to improve your channel, and to engage more people because people are looking for it. And again, because everyone has a phone, they might not understand that it takes more work than it does. But I think a lot of people, probably under 30, would not understand why you wouldn't have anything for them to watch.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be big and long, but yeah, and invest in their live stream, maybe half right. People that invested in their just streaming or not streaming, video quality in general, new people come.
Yep.
So
exactly.
Number 4, you will not see many new families with young kids visit until the fall of 2021. This was also the assumption. This was definitely the assumption that COVID would like go down a little bit.
Yeah.
And this one, I have no idea how you would measure it or not.
Yeah.
This was anecdotally true for us.
Yep.
We've had a couple of newer families the last couple of months where we didn't for a long time. All of the year. I don't know how much of that. Maybe some of it has to do with COVID. I don't really know. So, but I don't really know if this is true or not. Again, now because COVID's like very much depends on where you live. For us, it's a big thing here. Now that it's going back up, maybe didn't happen. But I also think it's been interesting, at least in our context, last week I spoke with 2 people who have been very COVID conscious, very pro-mask all the time. Again, influenced by our community. I think the same of us, if you put us somewhere else, we wouldn't care, but it's just everyone's, we're sheep. All of us are sheep. Me too. I don't mean that in a derogatory sense.
Yeah, no, I know, yeah.
And they both were like, I'm done with the mask. Like, I don't want to wear the mask anymore. We have to just live our life. This isn't going anywhere. And I was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So I think and maybe families are thinking that. I think we talked about this. I think people with babies are going to be probably nervous for a while.
Probably true.
But in terms of young families, I don't know if that was right or wrong.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. It's hard to tell. And I mean, where we are now, regardless of what you think, obviously COVID as like a whole isn't going away anytime soon. Depending on where you live, like you said, the severity of how it's treated and stuff like that is different. But so it's hard to even say now. Like I wouldn't say in our 2022 predictions, not to spoil anything, I wouldn't say this for 2022 because we've been in it for so long now that it's hard if there's anyone who's like still worried to go anywhere, it's hard to see what it would look like for them to completely come out of it at this point. Because I feel like we've been in it for so long that some people's minds have just kind of been, I don't know the way to put it, but like affixed to this is the way things are. And I don't know that that's the healthiest way to look at it, but I think that is the case for some. So like, I don't know. I don't know if this is true or not. I get why we said this before, and maybe it is in the grand scheme of things, but obviously COVID now isn't what we thought it was going to be by this point, and so maybe.
Yep. Who knows?
That's all I can say. Maybe.
All right. So we'll go to number 5.
Yep.
Churches that lack an outward community focus will see a decline in giving. I think this is also, again,
interesting take.
Assuming that people were nervous about gathering, but if they see you care, they'll continue to give. I don't know if this is true or not.
Yep.
It's been interesting because a lot of churches have seen increase in giving with the decrease of attendance. I honestly, there's no way to verify this. I think definitely not all of them, but I think some of them has to do with what we talked about before in terms of online content, because at least they're seeing you. Maybe I would say this: the churches that have tried. I take that back. It doesn't have to necessarily be online content. I would say the churches that in this year who have tried to find creative solutions to still keep people engaged, whether or not they were necessarily successful or not, probably saw better giving than those that like didn't change anything. So like didn't really do anything with live stream or online engagement, didn't really do anything different with groups or with serving, or didn't talk about the mission of the church. It was more kind of like hold on than let's still live our faith. They probably saw, and this is generally speaking, you could have done all the right things and still saw a decline in giving based on where you are, how many people, whatever. But some churches had a hard time, and some churches giving was better than you would have thought. And I don't know the answer to that. There's a lot of different reasons. So I don't know about this one.
I don't know either. I think if you would have told me back in when we did this, which was end of 2020, that end of 2021, we would see the giving that we've experienced. And like we said, we're not, it's not unique to us, it's others as well. But see the giving we experienced going up, but Sunday attendance not going up, I would probably say that's temporary. Don't count on it, you know? And I almost think that like every month, I kind of do our first pass at our giving and counting it and things like that for like the month. And just about every month still, I'm still like, is it ending now? Like, is this streak? Is this the end of it? And I'm getting a little more like trusting that this is just the way things are now. But for a while, it was like this is just a 1 month thing, or this is just a couple month thing. Yeah. So I don't know that I don't remember where the outward community focus came in, like why that was part of our prediction. I think it was just churches that are not focused on themselves are going to see more of a uptick in attendance, and so maybe that would translate to giving. Maybe that was our thought process. But yeah, I'm not sure.
But yeah, if I remember correctly, when we talk about outward, we were not necessarily saying you're going to serve in the community, but for example, for us, our mission is to help people meet Jesus and grow in a relationship with Him. And so, talking about what you're doing, why you're doing it, as opposed to trying to be like self-preservation mode of please stick around, please give, please, if you're not coming back, please come back.
Yeah.
As opposed to, those are legitimate fears and a lot of stressors, but we're still going to be doing things. I guess I would say those who had an outward focus tried different things and hopefully worked. I don't know. This one's, it's just like we said, it's hard to know.
Yeah. So maybe it was a little right.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know where we are in terms of correct numbers, so we'll just keep going here. Number 6, house churches have become more popular than they are now. Brian?
I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, this is also a who no idea.
This is one that maybe this is. I feel like this would have been this may have been an okay prediction for like COVID as a whole, because 1 year is a kind of a tough time frame to say, because obviously house church is a little different model than what a lot of us have done, but still going from like this not having an idea of this to a church, even if it's a house church being in existence, is probably going to take longer than a handful of months. Like they're just. Maybe not, but there's just things that go into it. So maybe if we're like, however long it's going to be, if there's ever a time where we can look back and say like, this was the time when COVID ended, maybe we'll be able to say yes to this as a whole. And I think this was my idea. I think I get my thought process about it. If people will be more likely to gather in homes and stuff like
smaller
that.
Smaller
gatherings
than larger ones. Yeah.
And maybe that's going to end up being true. I think in just 1 year, it's hard to say if that's true or not.
Yep.
I mean, we could go back to our idea. I mean, our, community groups example and say like, well, kind of, it's kind of the same thing. Although I don't know that reason is because it's smaller gatherings.
Yeah, I was thinking too. I don't think it's because people are afraid of larger gatherings. I think it's just because there's friendship and community that can happen as well. Like, exactly. I think for this one, it was the thought of, because people don't want to be around a lot of people, which definitely for a while that was true. And then people are kind of like, eh. Yeah. Most of us are kind of like, this is our life. So we gotta, but I think, for like the group example we're talking about, it's relational. For a lot of us, it's during the week, and so that definitely has become more popular.
Yep. So this one,
or not, I don't know.
This one maybe. If you're literally just talking about house churches, but I would say house stuff. If you put groups in house stuff, then yes,
house stuff will become more popular.
But house church, yeah,
that's a 2022 prediction. Right, do more house stuff.
There you go.
That's good.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
Maybe to go. And then last but not least, number 7, smaller churches will see a higher percentage of growth than larger churches. Again, this is hard to know. I think this is probably true. I think if you go to where people were probably in January, and then, because all the churches had lost attendance.
Sure.
Or most of us had, right? So if you go from January attendance till now, my assumption is, like, I have no idea if it's true or not, but my assumption is smaller churches have a more percentage of people relative to their January attendance than larger churches. And I would assume that for 2 reasons. One, depending on where you live, while many people don't care about large gatherings, a good number of people still do. Like, I've talked to people around here that like the Carolina Hurricanes or a hockey team or a football team, or go to a football game. Like, I wouldn't go to that, but they'll go to like a lot of stuff. So they're still kind of, so I think for some people that might be it. And I also think too, in an era of COVID, large churches can do this well. It just takes a little bit more effort, which I'm not saying they can't, but it's easier, takes less effort in a smaller church to create community. And especially with a lot of people, I have no way of verifying this, but we've had a lot of new people move to, people are moving all over the place right now, right? Yeah. And my assumption is if I moved, especially during COVID, to a new place, my first look would probably not be at a really big church because I don't know anybody. It's going to be hard to connect. I would probably just assume, although it's not true for all of them, but I would just assume that it would take me a while to build relationships, and I want something that can not take as long.
Sure, yeah.
And so I have no idea this is true, but I think it's true.
I feel like this one could be true or false. And what I mean by that is I feel like it could be technically false, but kind of a false. Whatever.
A false.
Like I think large
false
churches
positive.
maybe could have had a steeper decline in percentage, not like in. Well, I guess it'd be overall numbers. In overall numbers, maybe not necessarily percentage. So I'm trying to say, I don't know. I feel like they could have taken a bigger dip when we first opened up. Like when the state first opened up, their numbers may have been lower percentage-wise because people were really nervous about large gatherings. And so they may have seen a bigger percentage of growth, but still compared to where they were pre-COVID, they may not have. They may be further off from their pre-COVID numbers than smaller churches were percentage-wise. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think you get what I'm trying to say. So I don't know. I could see this one going either way, but I think what you're saying is right, though. I think smaller churches are going to have an easier time connecting with people, not just now, but I think going forward after this whole as we're kind of in this current / post whatever you want to call it pandemic world. I think it's easier for smaller churches to connect with people or kind of give people the connection that they're looking for than larger churches.
And again, I think this also goes back to just taking online presence and even just your sermons, taking them seriously, because it's not going to be as polished as a really big church. And this is not a competition. This is just if you want to engage more people.
Yeah.
People don't really understand all that goes into it. So when they move into a new area, they're going to look at the online stuff. And it doesn't have to be the best thing ever, but if you have nothing, the chances of them coming are going to be a lot less. Or I've said this in previous episodes. This isn't as big of a problem. I see this more on bigger church websites than smaller church websites, but still I don't understand it on either one, where you'll have your latest sermon or whatever on your homepage, but instead of watch now, it's like the countdown to the next live stream.
Oh, yeah.
And so you can't watch it. Yeah. Like, why is this on your homepage?
I'm not going to sit here for 4 days.
Or why is this why is this the primary thing on your sermons page of something that I can only watch live? Like, move it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Or a Sunday morning, put it on the front page if you want, and then take it down so that people can actually see something. Not 4 days until our next. That's not helpful. So don't do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I don't know. Many churches, maybe give us a half star rate, half. 50%.
Sure, yeah.
50%.
No, none of these were crazy, I'll say. None of them were as far off as I thought maybe they would have been.
So we'll see if we got any crazy ones for next year.
That's right. Who knows?
But those are reflections. Hopefully they're helpful. Hopefully you guys have had a somewhat decent year. You made it to the end. I know it's been hard for a lot of reasons. So thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're going to take the next couple of weeks off. But don't forget, practicalplanting.com, our Growing Your Launch Team course is half off starting today. Through the rest of the year. And as always, we don't want people wasting money. Nobody has yet asked for a refund, which is good.
Yeah,
but if you buy it and it's not helpful, don't feel bad. Just be like, hey, I didn't like this. Literally don't feel bad.
Yep. We don't want to waste anybody's time or money.
Yeah, we want you to do what's helpful for you. So if you're getting in the ready, maybe honestly, it is really focused for people who haven't launched yet, but there are even some things that can help you if you're trying to relaunch or regain momentum to think through. That's not the primary purpose of the course, but there are some things there. But if you're launching next year, if you know anybody that is, now's the best time to get it, practicalplanting.com. Yep. And of course, as always, on Facebook, if you're looking to connect, we have a Practical Planting Church Planting Facebook group. You can ask questions. And then we send a weekly newsletter.
We sure do.
practicalplanting.com/email. And just a weekly newsletter it's just brief, some quotes and some ideas. You can read it in less than 60 seconds.
Yeah, sure can.
If you want some stuff as you continue your journey. We hope you have a great Christmas season. Get some rest the last week of the year. And we'll be back with you next year.
Oh.
See you in 2022.
See you in 2022.
Practical Church Planting.